So you probably clicked on this video because you're curious, you're unsure. You know, you want to know, dude, what's still too strong, man? Phazon, what weapon is still way too good? Well, listen, I don't mean it in the way you might think I do. I think greatsword is still too strong, but let's talk about why. Now, the reason personally that I think greatsword is still extremely strong, and when I say it's, you know, too strong or super strong, whatever, I don't necessarily mean that it needs nerfs, but I will say the changes that they made to the weapon, right, they made it feel worse on miss for a lot of the things, but when you do hit like a string or when you do hit a combo, it's like they all feel the same once you get the like the connection, once you're able to go through and hit it. However, the big difference, I was just gonna go for it. Whoa, that didn't even hit me, but the finishers are still all extremely strong, like on smaller maps, and especially with greatsword legends that have higher strength or above average strength. So any one of them that has above 5, which by the way, I'm pretty sure that only is Magyar, who is actually below. Bang right there, just absolutely vaporized. Yeah, like the Jaeon stance you probably saw. I'm playing 7 strength. Unless you're like, there's barely anyone playing super high defense legends, and if you are, at best, more than likely, you're gonna be going even with the strength of Jaeon, with the strength stance that is. And with that being said, also, by the way, Dex on greatsword does not matter like at all. I know people say, but it's like you're gonna be able to do all the same stuff. You're not gaining any like true combos or anything. It just all feels the same, and it's interesting. Like, the stuff that feels worse, I'm pretty sure, is actually like finisher whiffs. So if you like go straight through with the finisher, that's what's gonna feel worse. But a lot of the times, it may be bridges too. Like, they have more recovery frames when you take away Dex. But the thing is, a lot of the times, especially the way some of the bridges move you, right? It doesn't really matter. Also, no idea how that caught me. I'm surprised that didn't hit me. But yeah, the way like some of the bridges move, dude. Why am I playing against a Fate round 1? I'm gonna lose it off the get-go. I just want to chill out and talk about my greatsword. All right, there you go. Have a bomb. Where was I before I lost it a little bit? Yeah, just the way some of the moves, like the bridges, like travel you, right? A good example would be this one. Like, you're gonna have movement from it, so even if you do have a couple like extra frames of recovery, it doesn't really matter that much. Also, like the way the aerial kit works, recovery frames on there don't really feel super bad because it's still super fluid and you're able to move around, and you know, all the moves aside from maybe side air, it covers a good amount of space, and it's kind of hard to get in sometimes. But yeah, also another thing, what is really sick about greatsword compared to, you know, like sword, sometimes like you can hit a D-light on sword, or even like a D-light recovery, that's a good one in particular. It feels so like bad, not bad, but it feels sometimes inconsistent with how it like ends up working. Greatsword, like you saw there, it's gonna work consistently every single time. Now there are some, I guess, odd cases, but you never have to question really like, oh, do I take this option or do I take this option, right? Do I take the D-light there? Do I take the D-light recovery? It's just like, oh no, this is what you're gonna do 9 times out of 10, especially when you know you can kill the opponent. Also, this guy's trying so hard. It's actually unreal. How are you going this hard, bro? I literally just, man, you know what? This is probably a big match for him. Maybe he saw my title or something. I don't know. Either way, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. We're gonna finish him right here. Side sig. Psych. Lying to you guys. Oh. No shot. You just dashed in. Recovered me. Recovery. One move that they did a lot of good on, I think, as far as like the nerf was really smart, was the recovery nerf there. Or the recovery nerf there. The recovery force nerf. I have no idea what I just said. I mean, it still kills, and it still feels like pretty much the same. It has a little more recovery frames, but they lowered the force as well, and I think that was a very smart move. So what do I think is like, what's gonna happen to greatsword? Are people gonna pick it back up again? Like, what do you mean with this title exactly? You know, I did explain, I guess, that a little bit, but to go further, I think that people are going to end up actually coming back to greatsword, at least a little bit. Some people, I think, will. And I think the people that do find success with it, especially at a higher level, people are going to start complaining, or their opponents are going to start complaining more and more about it, because it's going to become maybe a little more prevalent, I guess, or relevant, whatever word you want to use there. I feel like both those words are basically interchangeable, but whatever. I think people are definitely going to be looking into it more just because it is still really, really good. But they're going to be complaining about the force a lot. I see that happening big time. The force of the moves I was talking about. All the finishers, specifically the side finisher, is just insane force. So that wouldn't be a surprise to me if the first thing people start complaining about, not like there's certain ones that don't really have that crazy of a force, right? But then there's others, namely, like I said, the side one that has a lot of force. I mean, you could probably say like not D-Sig, that's GC D-Light, the D-Light finisher is also pretty good. Like some of them are very, very, very strong. And I think that was something that they definitely should have been more like wary about when they were changing greatsword. Instead, they kind of like they hit a lot of good things. They made a lot of good changes. But I think we're gonna see people complaining about the weapon a lot more in that regard for sure. It's fun to play still, I will say that much. I think after the Summers patch is when you might see people pick it up again. Hard to say though. Oh, recovery. Okay. I think the biggest thing that saved greatsword is that the aerial moves all feel the same. Like I said, aside from recovery earlier, but like all the aerial light attacks, they still feel the same. Specifically Nair and Dare. I mean, there is like a 1 frame now, unless you're doing like a falling Dare. If you're doing a falling Dare, then you can get it into Nair True still, I believe. But otherwise, it's 1 frame. And okay, way too creative right there. I will say that much. That was insane. Yeah, it feels good to play. It flows really, really well still. Like the ground kit has more recovery frames on sidelight in particular, but the Lord knows that needed recovery frames. It needed more than recovery frames, dude. It needed to just be absolutely gutted, you know, completely changed up. And you know, but we got a lot of recovery frames. It works too, I suppose. I think greatsword is just a super interesting weapon. I think greatsword is similar to Scythe, as in its power lies in the design so much, right? Like that might seem like an obvious thing, but when you think about it, like I don't know, like what's a good weapon for this? On the other end, right? Like Lance. I think Lance is so I don't want to say one-dimensional, but given how it's set up, the weapon is not like, it's not design-wise that great, in my opinion. Whereas greatsword, Scythe has the active input. You can mix up what options you do, right? You have a lot of choices. And then with greatsword, you have like, each move has like 3 or 4 different moves. There's so many different variants of each light attack that you can come up with a bunch of stuff, be super creative, and it keeps your opponent guessing and leaves them in situations where they don't know how to exactly adapt. But I think that kind of lays out most of my thoughts. I can't remember exactly it's always hard in the moment, like thinking back, and until I rewatch it, just like, did I relay this information correctly? So hopefully those 2 games that I spent talking about it kind of got it across. But now let's just play it. Let's just see what we can do. Like I said, I am still having a bunch of fun with greatsword. We'll see if I end up picking it up. I don't think before Summers necessarily. Maybe I'm ready for like a new meta, you know, a bit of a change up. I think Katars and Gauntlets are going to be good for the rest of the year. They're probably going to give like a superficial nerf, which if you don't really know what that I mean by that or what that exactly means, they're basically going to do a nerf that does a little bit, but it doesn't actually do that much, right? You see the numbers and you're like, oh wow, the numbers went down. They made a change. When in reality, the change actually wasn't really anything substantial. One would be like Sword Nair. Sword Nair, what was the point of them buffing Sword Nair? They made it go from like 16 to 17 damage. Now, to be fair, in order to actually see the benefits, it would take so much. It would take you to like, you'd have to hit like basically 10 Sword Nairs, I'm pretty sure, for it to matter. But at that point, right, 10 Sword Nairs, even before, that would only be a 10 damage difference, and that would be crazy to hit 10 Sword Nairs in a stock. If you only hit Sword Nairs, you do 170 instead of 160. which is just, at that point, you're going to look for something else. There's no reason to just be relying on Nair that much. That's like a superficial nerf. It doesn't really do much, but at the same time, sometimes those superficial nerfs can be very telling because it makes you question, like, why are you changing this in the first place, right? Like that sword Nair nerf, I was like, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, this doesn't really do anything. It's not needed though. It's just, why is this what you're changing instead of like some signatures or just, you know, whatever it might be. Like, why is this what you're going to? So that's how I kind of see it. All right. Ooh, that was a good D-Sig. I actually did know what Sig that was for a second. I barely see that D-Sig thrown out. It's also like, I don't know what the heck Hattori does. Like, Hattori like does like a little backflip. It's a pretty cool Sig, but like, if you guys watch me play Hattori in tournament or whatever, when I do use it, it's like off platforms and stuff, because I feel like that's where it shines. It's a pretty cool Sig though. It does have a good amount of force. All right, Jaehyun though, dude, Jaehyun's such a beast when it comes to Sigs. I could have actually killed this guy. Bang bang, dodge up. Right here. Oh wow, that wall variant is so like odd. I'm glad they introduced it. But it's so odd because other weapons don't really have it. Like, imagine if Spear had that. That'd be really interesting because it reduces, like, the hitbox of Greatsword's recovery, and other weapons don't necessarily have that. Like, you know, namely Spear, for example, where literally once the blade crosses over the edge, you're going to get hit by it. All right, this guy has a bunch of numbers in his name. And he's a Cassidy player as well. Or she. I guess it could be not just a he. I remember talking about this in one of my previous videos. I need to stop just referring to everyone as like he, like in game. It's just like something I've built out of habit because I guess most of the people I play with have always been guys generally, which, you know, I mean, it's just how it was for me at least growing up, and I guess still is to some degree, but you know, things change, I suppose. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, you guys ever talk, like, when I, like, think back to those first two games where I was, especially the first game of this video, and just thinking back to it, like, I really wonder if I got my ideas across well, because it's so hard to tell in the moment, like, to think back, be like, okay, what words did I exactly say, or, like, did that flow right? Because in your head, if you have an idea, it's so easy to just run with it, right? But the thing is, the hardest part, so many people I feel like have good ideas, but so many people that have good ideas struggle with speaking it and struggle with like putting it out there. That's how I see it, at least. They're not all the people, but just like there's a decent amount. Like, you can have great thinkers, but they always won't be the best speakers. But then you'll have some really good speakers, people who are great with words, but they have to have the ideas given to them. So it makes me wonder, like, okay, did I actually really say what I want? And I, you know, put the ideas in a sentence that makes sense to you guys? I hope I did. But basically, what I was getting at, I still think Greatsword is so strong, maybe too strong. I think that the strength of certain finishers, namely the D-Light finisher, like the swoosh, the 360, and then the side-light finisher that you see everyone using off of their like Greatsword strings, I think those two in particular, once people play more Greatsword, if they do, which I think they might, like I said, if the patch is what I predict it'll be, Katar's gauntlets might get nerfed. Even if they are a little bit, people might look at other options, and some people might pick up Greatsword, and then people be like, dude, why does this stuff still have, Sidelight and D-Light, have so much force? It doesn't make any sense. So that's how I see it going down. That's why I kind of made this video. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. I think Greatsword overall, you know, some people, like you've heard Boomy Sandstorm say, oh, it's the best weapon in the game. Other people are like, it's not that great. I think it's just a strong weapon. I'm not going to say where it's at. Maybe when I do my next tier list, I'll talk about it more. But either way, guys, I hope you did enjoy. I hope I did make sense to some degree. And I hope the Greatsword gameplay was at least all right. But yeah, peace, guys.